of America.
Thank you so much.
An elected president.
Thank you, Diane, for that introduction, and all of you at the table, Phil, Walter, Fred, all of you here for this wonderful welcome. Morning, Amy and I eat breakfast at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, we practice violin for half an hour. So you've made me feel at home. She practices. I am just there with her. So that was wonderful it was going to be. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. He told me when I talked to him to give you his love and his best wishes. He had planned, as you know, to be here, and very disappointed that he couldn't. Instead, he's in Washington, handling with the families that cannot do anything that would, it was really actions to impose punishment on the Soviet Union. Things like the grain embargo, the Olympic boycott, the call for registration of the young people, these are difficult decisions, difficult. But he made them because he feels these actions are absolutely necessary to avoid military action and to keep our country at peace. That is the important thing, to keep our country at peace. I'm glad to be back and talk about Jimmy. I traveled all. We have a wonderful country, wonderful people, and we can be optimistic about the future. People are good, capable of great charity and compassion, and we have the opportunity in the coming years to meet our human challenges, to care for our older citizens, to help the poor, the weak, the mentally afflicted, the handicapped, the vulnerable in our society. And we have opportunity to reach beyond ourselves. I can see our country feeding the hungry in the world. I can see our country a symbol for all the world to see of what is good and right, based on our morality and our compassion and our concern for human rights for all people. So as we enter a new decade, the 1980s, let us, above all, keep our faith in God, in our country, in our families, in our fellow countrymen. Let's remember our values, those things that are so important to us, and our heritage as we move forward, as we enter the new decade. Let's remember those important things and the American people with all the wonderful diversity that is America as we work to solve our problems and make our country even greater than it already is. Thank you very much.
Some of these, they know they're going to use this as cannon fodder to melt that funky red, white, and blue rag. From that day on, the working class in this country, we've been taking our stand with our class brothers' prayers and our capitalist plans for World War III. Working class.
I shot it at 4. Take my bag and drink.
You young ladies in front of us. Why don't you grab in front, young ladies? I'm going to get my boutonniere in here too. I didn't get as much as you, but I'm. Let's see where. Let's put this right here. Put them right here. Hurry up on it. No, that won't do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that the youngsters ordered 24 American Beauty red roses. Something happened, and this beautiful but difficult bouquet arrived. They presented to Mrs. Carter with their love and in the spirit of giving, and are just delighted to be here this morning.
No. What about you tell me all I got was a boutonniere?
And all Bob Strauss got was a boutonniere.
We'll see that as we progress to a victory in the June primary,
for me to be there with them, because they show me the situation.
He will be reelected, and we will win that June primary. Thank you.
And this time,
Thank you very much.
it's my privilege to introduce the...
And on the...
Let's put Carter in jail!
'68. His second term.
Himself and has attempted to do the best job that any one person could ever do.
Have you been warned to be very careful since all of the incidents with Jim Jones?
Yes.
Who warned you?
Well, we received telephone calls, security calls late into the night. Obviously, we did not know what the nature of the situation. We even contemplated not coming, but we knew that coming here today was our responsibility. It's such a tragedy what has happened. I knew Don Harris personally for the last 10 years as a very able and sensitive investigative reporter. He worked with us during the Poor People's Campaign in Washington. He later worked in Dallas. 3 months ago, I went to see James Earl Ray. Don Harris accompanied us on that trip, and that's a sense of personal loss. But for the group of people around the People's Church who were trying to regroup their lives and apparently were making great strides in that direction, this tragedy leaves all of us a bit numb.
Did you know Jim Jones?
Not personally.
You ever meet him? You ever run across him or any?
Yeah.
Did you know Jones?
Not personally. Just knew him at a distance and knew him professionally. And I knew many other people, Dr. Carlton Goodlett, Merv Diamond, and others who had tremendous respect for him.
Did you have any idea that he would could do something like this, could lead people to apparently what has happened, suicide, death, 300 to 400 people?
Well, I don't want to conjecture. I do not know what happened yet, and until all of the facts are known, I do not think that we should, in a panicky kind of fashion, begin to make a lot of statements and allegations. I think that the best we can do now is to express real sympathy for the victims of whatever went down, and hope that the situation does not spread.
How in the world, Reverend Jackson, could someone possibly lead people to doing something like this? Did you have, when you're meetings with him, did you have any idea that he may be capable of doing something like this, or did you think that he was good for the people?
Well, it is inconceivable to me that what has happened has happened. But again, I would not want the media, for example, to in a great state of panic, to arrive at premature conclusions. I remember some years ago in Chicago, they said a group of blacks, the Momo, was coming, and all of the newspapers made it screaming headlines. And it really was not as bad as the original reports were. This situation is apparently very grave, but we do not want it to be any worse than it is. For example, when we first heard that 5 people were dead, that was national tragedy. And then 400 dead. Well, it could be 1,200, and let's pray to God that it does not get any worse, that we can arrest the situation and hopefully keep it from spreading by isolating it in some fashion.
What can you say to members of the family, family members who may have had people down there? What can?
I think we must still fight for that new option in life for those who remain.
Have you been threatened at all, or have you been warned about violence possibly here?
Yes. I have no further comment.
Thank you.
Doctor, the word was that Jim Jones was not well for some time, that he had been having some kind of illness problem for a while. Is that so?
Yes, he was ill. In fact, I treated him before he left, and when he went to Guyana, about the last of July, I got a message from him that he was ill and that the physician there was having some problem with the diagnostic procedures, and he asked me would I come. And at first I was reluctant because I was pretty washed out. But he said, well, if I would respond to this request, that he would never impose upon our friendship again. So I went there, spent 3 days in Guyana, and so then when I came back, he had not gone in the hospital for diagnostic tests and workup. And I told him that, well, I was going to call upon him to respond to our friendship. And he promised to go into the hospital in Georgetown at the end of the Ryan visit. And we had hoped that they could find out what was his problem in Georgetown. If not, we'd arrange for him to be hospitalized either in Cuba, in Moscow, or in New York City. He was examined by the Soviet physician at the Soviet embassy in Georgetown.
That perhaps he had a brain tumor. Do you think that's true?
No, his symptoms did not resemble brain tumor at all. He had none of the signs, pathognomonic of brain tumor, nothing like that.
Can you give me any idea what kinds of symptoms he had? Was it a stomach disorder?
Now I can say this to you, that whatever his problems were, and we didn't have a complete diagnosis, we knew some of the things he didn't have, that it in no way affected his mental capacity to assume the role of leader of this commune. And he was reluctant to go into the hospital because so many problems had to be decided, and the people believed in this man, his charisma, and that type of thing.
So it was nothing that would affect his personality?
No. And
it was said from journalists who were there that he was taking a lot of medication. Was this medication that you had prescribed? Do you know anything about it?
Yes, I know what he was taking, and of course I couldn't go from day to day.
Painkillers?
No, the majority of his medicine were not painkillers.
Was he addicted to any drugs?
No. He was addicted to love of mankind, and that got him in, it did him in. That's a pretty bad disease. Himself, you know, he was very aggressive. He pushed himself beyond his endurance, and he never took care of himself. He didn't take himself here, for that matter, and we had problems with him resting and that type of thing. On several occasions, he had fainting spells at one or two of the meetings of the housing authority at that time, and he was a man who had tremendous drive, and he didn't know the fact that even those with good bodies sometimes wear out, and that type of thing.
How old was he?
46. He was a man who believed in socialism. In fact, the early church, early Christianity, he talked to one of the first.
A reporter and a photographer down there, were you aware of the dangers of this, even the remote possibility that something like this could happen?
I knew there was a remote possibility. I remember now telling them that I wanted them to call everybody sir and mister. I remember trying to say to them that I thought it was important that they be careful. But no, I didn't know. Nobody could predict that, and if you could predict it, you certainly would never send anybody there. This was just another assignment, one which both of them had requested, not one which I had insisted on and pushed them out the door when they didn't want to go. They both had requested this assignment for several months.
There are a lot of reports now that the State Department officials, they knew of the amount of guns and the possibility of danger down there. Were they aware of it? Were you told of anything? What are your feelings on that?
I don't know how aware the State Department was. I'm told they briefed Leo Ron, and that Leo Ron was not told that it was a very serious situation. If that's true, they were derelict in their duty. I guess I'm angrier about the fact that everybody knew that this was going on, because the examiner's been reporting on the People's Temple for months and months and months. One of the reasons that People's Temple group moved to Guyana was that we and some other people had begun to report on the fact of what they were and who they were and what they were up to, and nobody would pay any attention, and so we suddenly had 1,100 people in a jungle, an outpost of 27,000 acres, so far away that nobody knew how to contact them, and the only reason they would have had to go there, it seems to me, would have been to get away from the glare of publicity and from the pressure of relatives to get out of any such insane situation.
Have you talked with Tim? How is he?
I have talked to Tim several times. He's okay. He's tired. He's got some wounds in his left arm and shoulder, but they're going to be okay. He's had a little minor surgery to deal with that, but fortunately the shrapnel and the bullets hit him in the fleshy part, not in the bones, and there are no broken bones, and he's going to be okay. He had the presence of mind to go out and photograph for the record and for all time where all those bodies lay sprawled under that airplane, even after he had been shot and after he'd been wandering around in the jungle trying to escape the crazy people who were out there shooting at him.
When you joined the People's Temple back in 1970 with your parents, what were you looking for?
We were looking for an organization that would help the situation that society was in at that point. That was right after Martin Luther King, of course, was assassinated. My father marched with Martin Luther King in Selma, Alabama, and has always been involved in human rights. Around 1973, a group of 8 people left People's Temple. Actually, before then, I'd give it a year before, 1972, things started going bad. That's why the 8 left. I don't know what happened. I guess Jim just started going crazy with all the power he was given.
What kind of tactics did he or other people use to keep members like yourself in line?
He had us sign papers, blank papers, our names at the bottom of the page, and he had us write letters like, I am going to kill President Nixon, was in office at that time. I'm going to kill President Nixon, and you tell how you would do that. And I wrote that I stole $500,000 from People's Temple, and just writing crazy things like that for the cause. At that time it was for the cause, and Jim said, of course I'll never use these things against you. Yet when we left People's Temple, my father was told to write a note saying he molested his children, and they tried to bring him to court on that and discredit us, because we were trying to bring Jim Jones down at that time in 1975 and 76, and Jim was bringing out to the news that my father molested his children. But we had to write those things, you know. Was there any talk during the time that you were a member of the People's Temple about committing suicide if everything went wrong? Yes, the suicide thing started in 1973 when the 8 people left. What we were going to do is we were all going to commit suicide at that time, and because Jim wanted to go down in history as a socialist, or a person concerned for society or something. Anyway, one person of the a member of the organization said, I don't think that would be a good idea, because we just look like we were crazy. You wouldn't make a name for the organization. So he did think about it. Jim Jones thought about it, and he agreed with the man, so that we didn't commit suicide at that time. But he had discussed it after that if anything ever happened to Jim Jones, that we were to kidnap politicians and kill anybody that was a traitor to People's Temple, any members that had left and tried to do any harm to People's Temple. That we were told to kill them, get the politicians, kidnap them, and kill them if Jim Jones was killed, and then kill ourselves. Do you find that it's kind of... When my parents first told us what was really going on inside People's Temple, that we didn't know, because they were in the planning commission and counselors in People's Temple. They were one of the high echelons. Anyway, we told them, Sandy Mills and myself told them, get as far away as you can, because we don't want to have to kill you. We told that straight to their face. Has your whole experience with the People's Temple given you any second thoughts about religion, about cults? Do you see yourself joining some kind of mass movement again, or would you think awful long and hard about it? I would not join another cult movement again. I think everybody has their own beliefs, and I don't think an organization has to bring out those beliefs. Giving money to an organization like that, you're just feeding the minister. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about religion and organizations that rule your life. I don't think I'd ever do it again. I'm glad that this experience happened to me when I was young, because my parents gave away 19 homes that they owned in Willits, and a lot of other property that they owned. I had nothing. They came out with nothing. And my father was in his 40s. You know, a lot of these people that are going to be coming back from Guyana have nothing. You know.
Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're at the on the planning commission.
Are they down there now? Or?
15. You wouldn't believe the experience. It was, when I got out, it was very painful. I mean, you're completely set away from society. You know, you have no communication with the outside.
Okay. You all set? Okay. You all set? When you joined People's Temple back in 1967, what were you looking for? What kind of a need in your life did you hope that it would fill?
I was looking for a meaningful religious experience, and I had been to churches, numerous churches, and they didn't seem to feel the need that I had, whatever the sick need might have been. When I met Jim Jones and I was invited to his gathering, it wasn't a church per se. It was more of a social gathering with everyone picnicking, swimming together, bringing hot dishes, enjoying each other's company. It was very loving, and what he talked about was equality for all people, which was beautiful and is beautiful. It went on for several years like this. Then when he opened the doors and built a church so that the public could start coming in, then he appointed certain people to the position of PC, which is People's Temple Planning Commission. Then we came to know the real Jim Jones. After you were appointed to PC, you were compromised and were told that if you ever left, your children would be murdered and you would be assassinated. So there was no way out. But the general public did not know this. Only the high echelon in the group knew the inner workings of Jim Jones. I was appointed several years ago and was compromised with signed statements that I would assassinate President Nixon at that time he was president, kidnap any high official in the government or their children, to help further the cause of socialism and the ultimate communism. We signed these statements, and Jim Jones kept them. And if we had ever attempted to leave, all of these things, which was by the thousands that we signed, such as I hate my 3 sons, I molested them when they were children, I wish they were.
What kinds of compromising statements were you asked or forced to sign?
There were literally hundreds, but I will give you a couple of examples. For instance, one time in PC, we were told word for word how to write the statement that I, Wanda Johnson, will personally kill Richard M. Nixon, who was president at that time. I will kidnap any high government officials' children or do anything under my power to help bring about a socialistic state in America, overthrow this government, and help bring the ultimate communism.
Why did you do it? Did you think about what you were signing?
Oh, we had no choice. You see, his inner group, which he called his angels, in biblical terms, because he always said the FBI had him bugged, he would say, my angels will take care of the Heavenly Father's business, which meant his hitmen and women would take care of our families. We had no choice. If we still refused to sign such things as this, those that had already signed would surround you and beat you so severely. I mean, what could you do? Did you want your child? No, you didn't want your child murdered. This was always foremost in your mind. I have to protect my children. I had 3 sons.
When was the last time that you saw this son that's in the picture here?
I saw my baby when he was put on the bus in Redwood Valley 4 years ago and taken to the airport in San Francisco and flown to Georgetown, Guyana. But let me say this. You have murdered my baby. I have 2 sons that I adore that are grown. They can take care of themselves. My oldest son, Wayne. Pietila went with our Congressman Ryan to help try to get my baby out of there. Obviously, Tommy is dead. The children were found murdered. I now have nothing to fear. You have tortured me and done the ultimate. You have taken my life when you murdered my baby. So, hitman or hitwoman, which I know you have my name, I'm not afraid. I am willing to die for this. There's nothing else you can do to me. I'm fully aware that they're going to kill me, and I don't care. I'm spending the rest of my life working here in this center to help people come out of cults like Reverend Moon's or where these young people are caught in there. I don't know why they stay unless they're compromised like I was.
So you have no hope that your son is still alive. You've given up that hope.
How could he escape a 12-year-old out of 400 people that were murdered? He would have to be extremely. How could he escape in the jungle? There's no chance. They've murdered him. I know he's dead.
And even though we're surrounded now by people who are supporting you, and an awful heavy police presence, and people who are interested in your story, you still feel that you're as good as dead, as we say.
I am. You see, we were told that this would happen. If Jones was ever touched by the government, we were to immediately go kill each person that ever left the temple. We were to kill them, murder our children, and commit suicide. Now, Linda Amos, which was one of the high angels in Jones's PC, did exactly that. You see, this is a perfect example of we were not kidding. They were not kidding. Go ahead. You can't hurt me anymore, you know? Look me in the eye when you do it. Hitman or hitwoman, I know you're there. I don't care. I'm going to work here and help those people that can't get out of cults, that want to come here. We will house them, give them food and clothing, and help them get jobs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Some other pictures.
When they told us this would happen, Linda cut her 3 children's throat and cut her own throat when Congressman Ryan was murdered. This was the end of our hope.
What kind of hopes did you have for Tommy, as to the kind of youngster that you wanted him to grow up to be?
I
When your brother went down, you must have realized that there was a great deal of danger that something else could happen. It seemed like so much of that Do you think that the government down there was at all associated with it?
Did you know Jim Jones ever to talk of suicide, of mass suicides?
Well, I'd never heard him personally talk about it. I had heard reports from people who were inside the temple and then had left that down in Guyana he had practiced this procedure of handing out a brown potion and telling people to take it, and that it was part of a mass suicide, and then later on saying it was just a test of their loyalty to Jones. He got the notion of discipline all blown out of proportion. You need discipline. It's true that when in a large organization you need discipline, or otherwise it'll just be an amorphous mass and nobody will ever accomplish anything. But he started beating children for the slightest infractions, like asking for more food.
Did he have control over people with charisma and fear?
A combination of both. Who was the sister of my closest personal friend, and she was in the temple, and I begged her, and we both knew, she and I both knew what was going on inside that temple, and I was even able to relate examples of treatment that she had received at the hands of temple members, and yet she couldn't come to grips. She couldn't believe that. She couldn't face it, and she went off to Guyana, and she's missing now.
Do you believe she's dead?
I pray to God she isn't. I pray to God she's among the members who will eventually come out of the jungle and get back here.
Just a few moments ago, I was able to talk to Jones's 19-year-old son, Stephen, who was not in Jonestown at the time. He survived. He talked about his father during the last few months taking a lot of drugs, at times being incoherent, uncontrollable. Do you know anything about Jones and drug use?
Yeah, we had reports about Reverend Jones' drug abuse almost from the start of our investigation.
What kind of drugs?
Amphetamines, as well as barbiturates.
Are you speaking of methadone, speed?
Speed. Yeah, it was primarily speed. He repeatedly referred to the fact that he would stay up all night, and he would, and his members would be forced to stay up all night, and people couldn't understand how he could go on. And the fact was that he had nurses inside the temple that supplied him with the drugs.
So he would use speed to stay up in order to have a lot of energy, and then barbiturates in order to sleep?
That's correct.
Could you tell that this had affected his thinking?
Well, there was no concrete way, but I mean, just the vacillations that he would show. I mean, in one period of one day during which we tried to interview him, we went back and forth 5 or 6 times in which he called up and said that he was going to go to the interview, and then he called up a few minutes later and said no, he wasn't going to talk, and then he called back again and in a totally different voice and say, oh, we've always got to be reasoned together, and I've always been a supporter of the press. And then he called back again and said no, he had to go to the hospital because he had a heart condition. And then finally called back and said yes, we're going to, and he just tore them apart. They sold their homes. I know a guy down in Fresno who was taken for $350,000. That was just one man. The project on the surface was insane. I mean, that land is uninhabitable. That's the reason why nobody's there. That's why it's never been cleared. I mean, you know, if it were good land, arable land, it would have been cleared like the United States was cleared over 100 years ago. But you can't grow anything there. So he went out, he took his people out there, and he sunk enormous amounts of money into it. I mean, at one point, he bought 600,000 cubic meters of seashells to be towed up on barges into Guyana in order to aerate the land, because it's mostly clay, and to provide nutriment for the soil. Now that's the kind of thing that nobody in their right mind is to grow yams. You know, I mean, what would you do something like that for? He wanted a demonstration project, but on pure economics, the demonstration project was a failure. You couldn't do that. No company, no group of people could afford to put in that kind of money. I also think that
Haddock, can you compare him to a Charles Manson, to a Hitler, to someone like that, who has at the same time a side to him which is evil, corrupt, and possibly another side which is the charisma, the goodness?
Yeah, I mean, when a leader comes along, a leader is by definition different from the rest of us, and he has a plan and a vision, and he tries to bring that into existence through the force of his own personality and his ability to convince others to go along with him. And who's to draw the line where they say this vision is wrong and only this vision is acceptable? I mean, it's a very hard thing on the surface to make a judgment on. It's only but I'll tell you, in the last year I must have had half a dozen opportunities at one time or another to go to Guyana, and I wasn't as brave as the congressman. I was pretty certain that if I went down there I'd be killed, and I chose never to go. I mean, I was very upset about the story, even though we had broken it and he had left Guyana. I knew there were people down there that were in serious trouble.
Why did you think you would be killed if you went?
I thought they were crazy. I thought they would do it if I got down there in a foreign country, with no immediate recourse to American law, with no available police, stuck out in the jungle.
Were you ever asked to tell The congressman, anyone else, any kind of warning? Did they ever contact you, ask you about the man?
No, but I'm certain they were aware of the dangers they faced. Every report indicates that they were aware that they were going into a tough situation, and it was they chose to do it because they were courageous. I mean, you see, a newspaper reporting or even a camera crew on its own would have a hard time even getting anything out of it. They could have just stood at the gate and said, no, we go away. Or they could just shot it from the bushes. Who would have known? But a congressman, they figured, with a congressman and an NBC News crew, nobody would do anything. And they underestimated these people. They underestimated their craziness.
Cut it for a minute, Mary. Okay. Just tell me whenever. Okay. A former secretary to Jones, Debbie Layton, told you last year that some 350 black senior citizens from this area went to Guyana under Jones's care. He brought them there. What happened to them?
Well, we don't know. We don't know, and it's quite possible the worst may have happened to them. They were older citizens. They had no recourse to any consistent medical care. Most of them were not acquainted with living in a jungle environment, and they were fed very poorly. And the process that Jones used in order to acquire their checks was the checks were sent down to Georgetown, and then one of Jones's planes would fly the checks in to the Jonestown mission, and the people would line up and endorse them, and then they would be deposited in the bank account of People's Temple in Georgetown, Guyana. And
they were Social Security checks?
Social Security age-old assistance checks. And frankly, there is a fear among a lot of people, and a fear among myself. I mean, it's my fear too that many of these people may have passed away under.
How?
Well, either by natural circumstances or as a result of the mounting physical abuse that they took, and the records in Sacramento show that Jones never sent any notices saying that anyone died down there, and that the checks ought to be stopped.
So the checks would still be going?
So the checks would still be going even if they had died, because there'd be no record. And it's entirely possible there may be more bodies down there buried than the ones that were just laying on the ground.
Do you think there is a possibility there is either a mass grave site there or a number of people buried in unmarked graves?
I think that's a possibility. I think that's a real possibility.
Okay, now one more thing.
Sure.
Were a number of youngsters, talking about, minors between the ages of anywhere from 7 to 14, assigned to Jones by juvenile courts?
Sure. We found records of several youngsters who we discovered them in the course of our investigation, and many of them were reunited with their natural parents. But what we did not discover was how many others were there in this category. And we do know that over a period of 3 years, Jones was kept receiving wards from the juvenile court over in Oakland, and they would be transferred up to Jones's, up to the Temple's health care facilities, or child care facilities up in Ukiah. Many of these kids later stayed on in the Temple, and we're certain several of them went down to Guyana.
Do you have any idea how many?
No. One of the problems, one of the things that makes me upset is that Jones's own paper, the People's Forum, which was a monthly that they used to distribute here in San Francisco, repeatedly cited the figure of 130 wayward youth who had been brought down to Guyana for rehabilitation, and it's possible that was ultimately the number.
What do you think happened to those children there?
I haven't the slightest idea. I mean, I would.
Do you think they were cared for? Do you think there's any possibility that sex could have been involved in this, as far as sodomy, other forms of
I don't know.
sexual acts?
I don't know. I mean, you know,